It's Kitchen Cuisine. I'm your host, Jodi Buller, with Chefstuarto Glasser and Jill Dodge Quanstrom. Join us for a frank, joyful, and spontaneous take on good food in the kitchen and in the moment. Greetings and welcome to Kitchen Cuisine. I'm here with Chefstuarto Glasser and Jill Dodge, and we're going to get into some of the behind the scenes of the kitchen. You get to hear them in full effect, but today we're going to talk a little bit about kitchen resources. So thanks for joining us, and let's dive in. Jill and Stuarto, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Jodi.
So resources mean all sorts of things. We'll talk about a couple different as we go, but I'm thinking about cooking as both an art and a craft, and how it merges all those practical details of practice and knowing your ingredients, building relationships with the plants over time, and the intangible. And that's something about the creative piece that I think makes chefs so amazing and makes the food that they prepare, that work of art as opposed to just a meal. I think we can do that in our kitchens at home, too. And one of those sort of eras, I think, where a lot of people come into their own, and as we've talked about in other shows, ownership in the kitchen being that piece that sort of brings food to life, is how to eat well for yourself. What happens when you're living on your own? How do you get down to the basics and also learn how to really feed and nourish yourself? It wasn't until I was on my own for about a year that I figured I actually better start to feed myself, and I started with...
Wow, you are hungry.
Well, I really like appetizer-style eating, and that was one of the things that I learned when I was living on my own, is that I can be very happy just nibbling and pecking and combining different foods together. So my refrigerator changed during that time. Any immediate thoughts for you guys? Any first kitchen stories?
Well, it reminds me, my little single food secrets was, I didn't want to make a mess. I was busy. I was cooking for one. And although I cook a lot in my life, there are times when I just didn't want to. And so when I was younger, you stand at the kitchen and you have your crackers and your peanut butter, and you're eating your crackers and your peanut butter over the sink, and you're reading your magazine, and then you're done and you move on. Well, then at some point you realize that's probably not the most nutritious way to go about it. And so I started out, this is how my whole soup thing started, where I started making soups for myself. And it would become, when it would start with a vegetable soup, and then throughout the week I would add a little bit more to that pot, and then a little bit more. And by the end I had this minestrone, and it was just like this whole long thing. But I think cooking for one is an art. I do. And I fail miserably a lot of times. I fail miserably cooking for 2, 3, I either cook a small little cracker or enough to feed, the entire country.
Proportions.
Yes. And I don't have a good gauge with that because I'm usually feeding a lot of people for most of my life. So cooking for one is difficult, and I think it's a skill that you hone. And I think it's a budget restriction also. And your appetizer thing is brilliant. I think appetizers are the best meals ever. I really do. Sometimes, last night's a perfect night. I said to Matt, can we just have appetizers for dinner? And he went, great, make them. Somehow I always get caught making them, but yeah. I think
you're the one that has the ideas,
no,
I suppose.
I think cooking for one, you're right, it's definitely an art. I think Jill and I feel the same way. I really love cooking for somebody else or a group of people. It's part of what gets me really excited. Cooking for one, this is something that, it's nice to talk about, because when we were younger, first out on our own, it really was a survival thing. We'd have a can of tuna fish, we'd have some bread, we'd have some potato chips, we'd have, basic stuff, maybe a little bit of fruit if we felt like it. And it was just impulse eating. When you're by yourself, you'll eat when you want to eat, how you want to eat. You might divide your meal like in appetizers in the sense that you have a little bit over a period of time, that sort of thing. I think it's really cooking for yourself. One of the things, again, goes back to the pantry concept. I think it's really fun and important to just take some time and think about your pantry. Have some different spices, some different basic canned goods that you can use, some broths, that sort of thing. Look in your freezer. Make your freezer part of your pantry too. Freeze stuff when it's fruit and you bought a bunch of peaches and you know you're not going to eat them all. Take a few minutes, freeze them, stick them in the freezer. Build up your pantry of stuff that can keep for a while, the freezer and the dry goods. And then all of a sudden you have some basic tools for cooking for yourself. I think honor yourself. This is something I never really did other than gluttony, that, you know, you just felt, I'm going to just make this big plate of pasta. I'm going to take my shoes off. I'm going to sit in the chair. I'm going to throw a bunch of cheese on it and watch The Godfather or something like that, you know, which is, you know, or the same thing with cereal. I mean, what a great treat is lots of cereal, bananas, raisins, a big giant bowl, a big giant spoon, and all that's good. But you also can get this incredible feeling of fulfillment and satisfaction by, you know, taking care of your body and making something really nice for yourself. Actually make a nice piece of fish. If you're a vegetarian, make some really beautiful salad. Take the time and honor yourself. Maybe you can't do it every day, but do it a few times a week where you're just having dinner with you.
It's so true. Because I you know, even now, you know, when I'm home alone or something and I think, oh, I'll just I'll eat a piece of cheese, which is usually my go-to food. You know, but if I sit down, and the other day I made myself a nice little chicken breast and I had some leftover greens and I made some nice chard and it was delicious. And I thought, well, why don't I do this more often? You know?
Have dinner with yourself.
And I think that being alone, you don't necessarily take the time to love yourself. And you don't, because, you know, and I think part of it too for myself and probably Stuarto also is that being a cook, cooking for yourself feels like a job sometimes, you know, and so in getting out of that it's just a hassle.
You might feel like it's you know, you're putting out a bunch of, like you said, a bunch of work. Why should I just do that for myself?
Yeah.
But I think it's something that we don't think about. It's nice to talk about. I think hear you. I think we should have dinner with ourselves at least once a week.
And it also teaches you how to cook for other people.
It does.
That is very true. All the way around. I'm gonna do it. Okay. Well, speaking of joy and love, how do you get your inspiration when you're making meals? Are you thinking about the nutritional components of food? Is there a practical piece to it? I'm thinking of all the people who are cooking for their families and they want to give their kids balanced meals, but they don't want to just dial it in all the time.
I think when my daughter was younger, and lived at home, my main focus was getting her a healthy start for school, packing her a good lunch, and sending her to bed with something that would, you know, be satisfying. And so I think those components are, yes, part of the mix. As she's gotten older and stuff, now it's more of what were the foods that she loved? What makes people happy? You know, I cook for me a lot of times. I'm really picky about some of the foods that I eat.
Have you always felt that way? I mean, were you like that when you were younger? Or was that something that came as you got more knowledge about what was good for you and how you
No,
how you
I've
felt?
always been that way.
Wow, incredible.
I've always been that way. And it doesn't mean I always made the right choices in my food decisions, but there was always... I grew up with a grandmother who was way before her time, who stopped eating white flour and sugar and red meat,
incredible. You're so
you know,
lucky.
back in like 1962 because she read something in the Reader's Digest. You know what I mean? She was just way before her time. And so I learned nutritional things from her. And so that was kind of my influence. And it's always been in my head, always, regardless of whether I'm consciously thinking of it or not.
You're so honest about it, and that's why I asked you that question. And for me, when I think about it, like, you know, where it comes from, it was always based on taste. And, of course, raising kids and cooking for them. But I remember more the focus in at that period of time was obviously trying to let them eat, you know, things that were good for them and healthy. But I didn't think of it so much in that way when you were just trying to get them to eat something and something that was decent. Vegetables, forget it. They never happened. Though my middle daughter, you know, her nickname was Fruity because anything that was a vegetable or a fruit, that was it. She would eat anything. I mean, I just remember her sitting with, you know, she was about 6 years old and ate 2 to 3 pounds of cherries, you know, and then had a big smile on her face and then a bag of plums on top of that. Anything with fruit. So I knew she was doing okay. My oldest one was a little bit more picky, and my son, These days, I can't believe it. If we go out and we make some food and I ask him what he wants, it's like 1,000,000% different than it was when he was little. But for me personally, as a cook, it's always about what tastes good and what's kind of fun. And also, the one neat thing, inspiration-wise, I thought about this too, is being raised on the East Coast and then coming out to the West Coast in my early 20s, before there were so many choices where you can get a lot of things from back east.
Right.
Here now. You couldn't then. So my whole cooking concept came from imitating the things that I really liked.
Sure.
So anyway, for me, it was really more about taste and imitating things that I couldn't get here. And that's really how a lot of the influence happened.
I do that now, living, and although it's the same coast, there's a big difference between the foods in California and there's
Absolutely.
foods here. I mean, getting Mexican food here is difficult.
It is, and I want to talk to. We really do have to do a show about that, and I look forward to doing that with you, because I think what you're saying is so cool. It's imitating from where you're from, and we are on the same coast. It's fascinating,
Thanks for joining me, Jill and Stuarto. This is Jodi Buller, Kitchen Cuisine.
Thanks, Jodi.
Thanks, Jodi.
Thanks.
The recipes were recorded at the Skagit Valley Food Co-op.
Welcome back to Kitchen Cuisine. I'm Chef Stuarto Glass with co-host Jill Dodge. Hi, Jill.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, we're great. And we're cooking in the kitchen again of the Skagit Valley Co-op right here in Mount Vernon, Washington. And now this week's recipe. I decided that years and years ago, back east, it was something like sort of a street food. And I know in Los Angeles, you probably found it a lot more prevalent than in Wisconsin, let's say, or other places. And as more and more people became vegetarians and the counterculture changed in the 60s and 70s, they started to discover food from different places. This one today comes from the Middle East. And it's a staple on the streets of Tel Aviv and many other places over there, and it's called a falafel.
Yum.
And a falafel, I used to think that, you'd have to go out early in the morning and hunt them down in the woods, and come to find out that a falafel is actually a vegetable, and it starts out with a chickpea and or a garbanzo bean, as they're known. There's a couple of different kinds of garbanzo beans, but the standard ones that we're all used to are sort of yellowish in color, maybe white. I just recently discovered a green garbanzo bean, which is amazing, and I'll tell you more about that in making a green hummus. All right, so we decided falafel is delicious. They're little balls, that you fry, and we'll talk about that in a second. And they end up resting in a pita bread or a Middle Eastern flatbread. I also have discovered sometimes that an East Indian naan bread works really good too. It just depends on how sloppy you want to get and stuff. The pita bread acts kind of like a pouch. The naan bread acts like something that is almost like a burrito, and it's really, actually, personally, I think a falafel should be all over your face.
Okay.
What do you think? Okay, so that's my feeling about it. All right, so here's the deal. So I've had falafels all over the place in the East, and then I didn't have them for a really long time when I came out West until I discovered some different stands. And I decided to start making them at home, and I know that you have too. And I decided to create what's called a super falafel. So that means it's almost like kind of a super burrito where you go to a place and you get all the different, you get the meats or the veggies, you get the fixins, you get the guacamole, the sour cream, 400 different other things. I decided to go the same route for the falafel. Is that okay?
Yeah, sounds delicious.
All right, so that's what we're going to do today. So Jill, walk with me a little bit and let me show you what we have here.
Okay.
Basically what we're going to do is we have three major components of this super falafel with standard procedure items such as vegetables. But basically, the component of the falafel is the falafel itself, the ball. And today, just based on situations of most people and time, I've discovered a couple of really, really good mixes. And these are pre-mixes where all the ingredients actually are done. And all you have to do is add water to the mix, and you can create a falafel ball in just a matter of about 10 minutes. But we also can make these from scratch. And basically, again, the main component is a garbanzo bean. So talking about the quick components of the falafel, we have a garbanzo bean, we have fresh parsley, we have a little bit of tahini, we have a little bit of, in some cases, a little bit of dry wheat flour, a little bit of oil, a little bit of fresh parsley, and all this is mixed together. You cook the beans, you drain them really, really well. I like to keep them overnight until they're cold, pull them out of the fridge, mash them up, add your the ingredients I just said, the parsley and the flour and salt and pepper and fresh parsley. Again, a little bit more of that. I no sense in not mentioning it twice. A little fresh garlic, salt and pepper. Mix it all together and form these little balls. What I do when I make them from scratch is after I form the ball, I roll that in a little bit of wheat flour. Or sometimes you can use...
get a crust.
To get a crust. And sometimes you can actually use a little wheat flour with a little cornmeal. Gives it the crunch, okay? And we'll get that recipe to you guys exactly on our website, and we'll tell you how to get that later in the show.
Can we tell our listeners a little bit about what tahini is?
You bet. And in fact, thanks for mentioning that, because we're going to go to the hummus right now. The second component of this falafel is hummus. And Jill, please tell us what tahini is.
Tahini is, it's a nut butter, but it's used with sesame seeds.
So it's like a peanut butter, but...
It is. But it's pretty thick. It's pretty dense. I like to use it for a myriad of things. I use it for salad dressings.
Nice.
Lots of different things. It has a really unique flavor to it.
So it's kind of like a good base. And so today we're going to go ahead and use tahini in our hummus. And let's go ahead and start putting that together. What we have here is we have some garbanzo beans that we've drained. And we'll take that and we put those sort of in a bowl right here. And due to the nature of not having a food processor right here on location, normally you would have a food processor or some kind of a blender. But Jill and I are really competent, and we're going to go ahead and use a little whisk here, and we're going to go ahead and mix this by hand. So go ahead and take these chickpeas right here and dump them in the bowl. All right, and go
They're
ahead.
also very high in protein, which is another nice thing.
Absolutely.
Particularly for people on vegetarian diets who
You
are
bet.
trying to get, all their protein is. A falafel is a perfect source of protein.
Absolutely, and in fact, it really is one of the greatest vegetarian sort of meals that you can have. One of the best places I've ever had falafel was down at the Portland Market. They have a Saturday and Sunday market, and they have this plate which is incredible. It's a Middle Eastern plate. It has falafel balls. It has your tzatziki. It has, and we'll get to that in a second. It has your hummus. It has your bread, all your vegetables, and then they give you some pierogies on top of it.
Pierogies.
With fried onions, which we'll talk about in another show.
So a little different ethnic variety
yeah,
there.
they just want you to get the whole wax. Okay, so we're blending this together right now. We're mashing up, quite well, and we're mashing up the chickpeas pretty good. Okay, go ahead and put a little bit of oil in that.
Okay.
A little bit of really nice oil. And I have some garlic cloves right here soaking in some oil. I'm going to go ahead and pour some of that oil in here as well.
And it looks like you roasted this garlic, so
I
it
did.
has a nice sweet flavor to it.
Exactly. I took the cloves and I put them in a little bit of oil and put them in a broiler. And, at the lower rack, just for a couple of minutes on each side till they kind of, get a little caramelized. And then I let them sit in a jar for a day or two, just so you get that really good oil. All right, so I'm mixing this really good. Go ahead and put some of that tahini in.
Okay.
Put about 4 or 5 tablespoons of tahini in there.
Now it's very thick.
Yeah, it's pretty thick. Let's go ahead and add a little bit more oil. And that's working pretty good. All right, now it's getting nice and creamy. You see that texture?
Lovely.
Go ahead and put a little bit of the fresh parsley in too.
Okay.
And a little
What
salt.
kind of parsley are you using?
I'm
Flat
using
leaf or regular?
No, I'm using regular parsley today.
Garnish
parsley. So anyway, all right, so we got this blended really good. I think at this point in time, let's go ahead and just a little teeny bit more oil to get a little bit more creamy. All right, go ahead and take that lemon and give it a nice squeeze of lemon.
Yeah, I like a lot of lemon. So.
Yeah, or go for it. All right, now we got this beautiful creamy stuff. It looks pretty darn good. And you know what? Let's take a little bit of that roasted garlic. Let's chop up a little more and put it in there.
Okay.
All right, now it's sort of, all right, we got it. All right, so we got our component number 2. Okay, so we have take that big bowl. Let's take our garbanzo beans, put it into a big bowl right here, and then go ahead and start mushing them. And then we'll add a little bit of that fresh grated parsley, about 5 or 6 tablespoons of the tahini. Go ahead and take about 1/3 of a cup of the olive oil slowly, and a little bit of that garlic oil. And then we'll take some of the fresh garlic at the same time and mash that up and put that in a little bit. And go ahead and keep blending it really, really well. Go ahead and take a half a lemon for starters and squeeze that lemon juice into it. A little bit of salt and pepper. And what you should get is a hummus pudding.
That's a nice way to put it.
It's like a hummus pudding. So right now, okay, so we got our hummus made. All right, and our third component, Jill, is tzatziki.
My favorite component.
Say that again.
My favorite component.
All right, cool. All right, so tzatziki. We got the cucumber, and we're getting into a fine grade right here. We got a whole cucumber. We're just sort of grating that. All right, that's coming together nicely. All right, go ahead and take a half an onion, Jill,
Okay.
and go ahead and grate that in there
Okay.
as well. While she's doing,
Not too fine, right?
not too fine. While she's doing that, today we're using a Greek-style yogurt. I think it's worth a little bit of extra money. It's just the purest of the pure, and we got about 10 tablespoons, or maybe a cup and a half. Go ahead and dump that in.
Okay. Now, I have to say, when I go to restaurants or I eat falafels at a stand, they're very chintzy with the tzatziki, and it's very upsetting.
I'm with you totally, and that's why, as you see, if you look at our preparation table here, the largest bowl that we have on the
Is the
table
tzatziki.
is tzatziki. We're making about a quart and a
Warms
half
my
of it
little
today.
heart.
All right, so that's coming together nice. Now I got some fresh dill. Go ahead and put some of that in there.
Okay.
And some nice fresh chopped parsley. And that yogurt, it's all coming together really nicely, isn't it?
It's lovely.
And again, you take a little taste. It's delicious. But it's missing something. You know what? We have a secret ingredient. I like to take feta cheese
Yum.
and put it in my tzatziki. So I have a little cube of feta cheese. I've grated it up really nice, and I've poured it in here. See the thickness there?
Oh, yeah?
And now you can get even a little bit more taste of that feta cheese right there.
I really like it with the dill.
Yeah, I wish everybody could see Jill's face right now. She's smiling. All right, we're ready. We got our falafel balls. By the time we did that, we got them sitting. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put them in the pan.
Okay.
Now what we're going to do is we're just going to watch these. We want to get them nice and brown, but not too brown. And we hear that great sizzle. All right, so we have all our components sitting, waiting to get filled.
Nice golden brown.
Exactly.
So, checking for doneness on a falafel.
Mm-hmm.
How do we do that?
All right, here's the great thing. Technically, it's already cooked.
Right.
So there's nothing in there that's raw that we have to worry about. So basically what we're looking for now is just that beautiful color, and if you look at that, it's really starting to come together. Seeing those nice brown, sort of goldeny chickpeas just turning really nice. And that's what we want. We really want the crunch, because everything is about texture.
Thank you for saying that.
All right.
I
you're wel-
think that cooking and eating is all about flavors and texture.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's sort of an aerobics class in your
mouth.
In your mouth. Yeah, that's it.
It's a party in your mouth.
Yeah, and that's really the whole thing. I mean, most of the things that we eat that we really love, we love so much because it's gooey, or it's chewy, or it's crunchy, you know, and such kind of things. So today we're using two different breads, Jill. As you're going ahead and getting those balls ready to go, I'm taking these nice falafel packets right here. These are just really nice, very, very simple wheat today. We're using a wheat pita bread, which we really like. But like I said earlier, I'm also using a naan bread. And as soon as those balls are done, I'll take the pan and I'll just throw the heat on this one as well. And we'll go ahead and just warm them up a little bit just for fun. All right, they're looking really good.
They look yummy.
And as soon as they're done, we can go ahead and put them and let them drain in this bowl to get the to get everything off. Yeah, looks good. What do you think?
I like it.
Think
I don't
they're
like
there?
it too dark.
All right, I'm going with your feeling on
I
this.
like a golden brown, not a burnt brown, which I know
Fantastic.
a lot of times they're real dark, but
And one of the really good things about this meal is it's really sort of a one-plate item. I like to put all the stuff together, which we're going to do in just a second. All right, now everything is cooked beautifully, and we're ready to put this together. Jill, tell us what you see here on this table.
well, I see beautiful colors actually. I see the brown of the falafel, the lovely white and green in the tzatziki, the kind of, well, it's kind of beige-ish color of the hummus, the beautiful red tomatoes, the lovely lettuce, the feta. It's quite lovely. It's
We have a really smorgasbord, and so we are just having a good time. We're going to assemble one and see what it tastes like. So right now we have the warm, just perfectly slightly warm little bread here, and I'm taking the pizza. First thing I like to do is, in honor of Jill's favorite thing in the world, is start out with a little tzatziki. You know, just put a little bit in there like that. Pardon my using my hands. I have a really nice field mix here, the greens again, a little bit of greens like that. At this point, I like to take my balls and I can just sort of break them up a little bit. And usually about 2 of these balls will make a nice sandwich, you know. So we got that. Then we take our lovely hummus and just do a nice little layer of the hummus in there like that.
Yummy.
which is incredible. And it ain't over yet. I like to put a little bit of Kalamata olive in.
Yeah.
Not for everybody, but
No.
I have some chopped Kalamatas here.
I think the brininess goes really well with
think
the
you're
garlic,
right.
and
And then I put a little bit more feta.
can never go wrong with cheese.
And then a couple of cucumber pieces, which really make it really nice. And then I like to put a little tomato,
Yummy.
and like that. Then I have a little bit of fresh parsley.
My goodness.
And in honor of our breath, I have a couple of roasted garlic
Because we
cloves.
just don't have enough garlic in the hummus. And
Okay, and we have parsley on the floor, but that's okay. All right, and we're about to wrap it up. So, of course, the traditional show here on Kitchen Cuisine is my incredible partner is going to take a bite, and you're going to hear it on the radio right now. Here it goes.
Okay, here we go.
Go for it.
Oh, my goodness.
This-
Oh, my gosh, that's yummy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to Kitchen Cuisine. It's the Super Falafel Show, and we're really happy. Thanks for joining us for this week's recipe, and come back next time for more really good cooking on
Kitchen Cuisine.
This is Stuarto Glasser.
And Jill Dodge.
See you next time.
Got a minute or two? Here's a quick sprint through another great recipe in our Cooking Minute.
With the weather changing, we'll be spending a lot more time outside doing the grilling we really love to do. Well, did you ever know that you can make a pizza pie on a grill? Well, yes, you can, and this is how you do it. First of all, get your pizza accessories. Get your mozzarella cheese, your tomatoes, your pepperoni, your anchovies, your fresh vegetables, anything you'd like, and set all that up. You'll need to have a simple pizza sauce, usually a cup and a half of crushed tomatoes, a tablespoon of garlic, a tablespoon of olive oil, a tablespoon of sugar, a tablespoon of Italian seasoning. Mix that all together and set that aside. Mix it cold. It works really much better that way. For your dough, take 3 cups of flour, 1 package of yeast, 1 cup of warm water, a tablespoon of olive oil, a tablespoon of honey, a dash of salt, a dash of pepper. Mix that all together, and you'll have your really good pizza dough. Now, here's what you do. Get a fire going. I prefer when I'm doing pizzas not to use a gas grill, but just the standard old charcoal grill. But this time, instead of using charcoal, you're going to try to find some nice cherry wood or apple wood. Get that fire going really well until it burns down to some beautiful glowing coals. A Weber works really good because they have the top and it seals it in really nice. Now, get your dough, roll it out, start your pizza. It's really, really good to put it on a little bit of foil with a little bit of oil on it and stick that pizza right on top of the grill. Now, put the top of the grill back on, give it about 5 minutes, pop the top of the grill off. You should see it starting to rise a little bit and get a little bit crispy. At this point, I would rotate it about 180 degrees, put the top back on, and give it about another 6 or 7 minutes. The crust should start getting golden brown with that nice smoky flavor. Give it about another 4 or 5 minutes, and you have yourself a delicious outdoor pizza. Serve with a nice fresh salad, some fresh grilled vegetables, and you will have a wonderful outdoor pizza party in the springtime. This is Chef Stuarto with another Cooking Minute. Hey, let's eat!
You've been listening to Kitchen Cuisine with Chef Stuarto Glasser and Jill Dodge Quanstrom. I am your host, Jodi Buller, and we would like to thank our technical staff, Isla Bystrom-Williams and Ryan Bartley, our recording engineer, Ben Nason, our editor, Jay Charles. Kitchen Cuisine is produced by Stuarto Glasser and executive produced by Joseph C. McGuire. This program is underwritten by KSVR 91.7 FM and the Skagit Valley Food Co-op, and the recipes are prepared and recorded at the co-op. You can like us on Facebook or not, and you can find more information, including show recipes, on our host website at www.ksvr.org. We'll see you next time when we bring you more good cooking right here on Kitchen Cuisine.
Beautiful.